أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العظيم.
Before we start, we move closely, inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Yesterday we concluded and we said that today we, inshallah, we'll talk about knowledge and how a person should go about acquiring knowledge and from where he should acquire knowledge, which was based on the question of the brother yesterday, if you remember, inshallah. Firstly, we need to understand the Prophet ﷺ himself was instructed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to acquire and increase his knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Taha, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا O Allah, increase me in my knowledge. And it was a regular dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He would recite, Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a wa amalan mutaqabbala. O Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge and I ask you for an accepted amal and an accepted deed. This hadith, or this dua, it may seem to us short, and it is short and sweet, but we learn something very important from this one dua. Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a. O Allah, I ask from you knowledge which is of benefit. The word nafi'a is the key here. And from this word we learn that knowledge, there are two types. One is the beneficial knowledge, and the second is the harmful knowledge. But the question arises here that the knowledge of Islam, the knowledge of the Quran, the knowledge of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the knowledge of his sayings, of his sunnah, how can that be harmful and how can that be harmful? It can only be beneficial. So the answer is that yes, the knowledge itself, it is only filled with goodness and benefit. But if it is acquired in the incorrect manner, if it is acquired through wrong avenues or unacceptable methods, then that knowledge of the Quran, of the Sunnah and the Hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam can prove to be detrimental for a person. So, knowledge which is beneficial. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made the dua, "Oh Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge." That means that I don't want that knowledge which is harmful. So knowledge is very important. Shall I explain to you why? Let me give you an example. Most of you sitting here still probably attend the evening madrasa. In the holidays you come in summer school, you come to the morning madrasa and you study until you're 11, until you're 12, until you're 13. And not everyone goes to alim class. Not everybody goes ahead further to learn Arabic and then advanced Islamic studies. Then you leave. Okay. Now, until the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, the knowledge that you acquire in the evening madrasa is limited. It has to be limited because it's catered, it's designed for your age group. There's no point in teaching a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old something which will be of benefit to a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old. So the course is designed with the age of the students in mind, that what they are in need of, what they can understand, what they are capable of acquiring and understanding. It's based on that your lessons are imparted to you and you acquire that knowledge. That knowledge is your deen. Because say a person, you get so many people who become Muslims. Now say somebody comes today here and accepts Islam, and then he goes off and he doesn't learn anything about Islam. How much deen is going to be in his life? You tell me. Maybe 1%, 2%? Because why? He has no knowledge. He's accepted Islam, but no one's told him you have to perform salat. So is he going to perform salat? No. Why? Because he doesn't know you have to perform salat. Is he going to fast in the month of Ramadan? No. Because why? He doesn't know that you have to fast in the month of Ramadan. So your deen is based on your knowledge. The more the knowledge, the more your deen. Inna hadha ad-deena ilmun. Imam Muhammad bin Sirin rahmatullahi alayhi, a great tabi'i who lived in Medina Munawwara during the time of Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi, he used to say that knowledge and ilm is your deen. So we can say the two are the same. Deen, knowledge. Knowledge, deen. Islam, knowledge. Knowledge equals Islam. They're both the same thing. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to ask Allah, "Oh Allah, increase me in my knowledge." Meaning, increase me in my deen. Increase me in Islam. Now the problem with us is that limited knowledge of our Islam that we acquired when we were a child or a young boy or a young girl until the age of 14 and 15. And then we left madrasa. So basically our connection with Islamic education comes to an end, yes? Okay? You might be connected to the masjid, you may be coming to the masjid, but education in its formal sense, it stops when you hit the age of 14, 15, am I right? What time do you normally, what age do you guys normally leave madrasa here? Grade 12? No. 15. There you go. 15 years old. Same by us. So, after that, that's when you're at the age of 15, what grade are they in school? 9. Grade 9. That's not the critical point in your school life. When does it stop? 11 and 12. That's when you start hitting those dilemmas. Dilemmas that you don't know what to do now. Then you go into university or you go into college. More issues. Because why? You're going into a bigger world now. Up till grade 9, you were in an enclosed world. It was madrasa, home, school. School, home, madrasa. That was a triangle. And in between, the park or the shopping mall or something, whatever you guys do. Hockey or whatever. Your leisurely activities. That's all you were focused on. So, whatever you learned in madrasa, that was enough to assist you in your religious life. Because you've not come across anything which needs to be spiritually or religiously understood by you. But as soon as you hit grade 11, grade 12, you go to college, you go to university, you leave university, you go into the work world now. Then you start meeting new people. You face new scenarios, different challenges. You mature yourself, and as you mature, then your desires mature. Am I right? Now, these situations, you're not prepared for them religiously, and nor are you prepared for them in a worldly aspect as well. Because why? You have no experience. So you can't tackle those issues. Let me give you an example. And I'll be straight with you here. Relationships between a boy and a girl. Or for that sake, a girl and a boy. Grade 11, grade 12, it's going to happen. College, university, it has to happen. In this environment, there are only those few selected ones who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects, and may He protect all of us. But this day and age, with what we have in our hands and in our pockets, all sorts of things can happen. Now, if we are not prepared religiously how to tackle this, these change of thoughts in your mind, these emotions in your heart, then what's going to happen? Exactly what's happening outside. And this is the direct result of what? Our religious knowledge becoming stagnant and stopping. It pauses and it just breaks off. So we don't have any knowledge now to guide us further. You know, the Jummah khutbah and the Jummah talk, that's just, on the surface of the water. How much can the Imam discuss in 20 minutes? He'll just discuss big issues, major issues. Things that are happening around the world. He can't pinpoint individual needs and address them. Some lecturer comes and he talks, he gives a talk, mashallah, beautiful talk. But that talk is going to be a general talk. I've been doing the same for the past few days. I can't individually address you. I make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, make me say those things that benefit all the people who are sitting there. But I cannot physically discuss what issues are in your mind, what needs you have. I can't. That's for you to either approach me and ask me, or for you to go back to a scholar and acquire knowledge. And that brings us to the question from last night. That how do we acquire knowledge? Because formal education has stopped, and there's no one who's going to go back to madrasa. Trust me, I'll tell you. The masjid guys, they complain. We have adult classes, and we advertise it, and no one comes. Or 1 week, 2 weeks, you get a few people coming in, and then everyone starts slowly dropping out. So we have to acquire knowledge ourselves. We have to find those ways through we can acquire knowledge, so that as we move forward in life, we're growing and we're moving forward with the right knowledge. But at this moment in time, what's happening? Our knowledge of Islam is that of a 15-year-old. Yes? And then we become 16, we become 17, we become 18, we hit 20. The knowledge is still of a 15-year-old. So you're a 20-year-old, but the knowledge that you have of Islam is that which a 15-year-old needed. So now you are in a deficit of 5 years of Islamic knowledge that you needed. And then you hit 25, and you still have the knowledge of a 15-year-old. And then you hit 30, you still have the knowledge of a 15-year-old. So basically, Islamically, we remain a child through our entire lives. People live through old age and they still have the knowledge of a 15-year-old. You know, back at home in India or in Pakistan, that could be understood back in those days. You know, I remember my father saying to me that my grandma, when the time of Ramadan would come, she would open the Quran, she would put her finger on Surah Fatiha, and she would just move her finger across the verses and just mumble something. But when she was asked what is she reading, she had no clue. She couldn't even recite Surah Fatiha. Many of our grandparents, great-grandparents had that little knowledge of the Quran. That doesn't mean to say that we undermine them and look down on them, because despite the lack of knowledge, they had a lot of love for their deen. They were very pious people. And for them to acquire knowledge was very difficult in those days. Those methods and those means were not there. But so we can't have that excuse. So they grew old in age, but they still had the knowledge of a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old with regards to their deen. But we don't have that excuse. We cannot get old and be content with what we learnt in madrasa when we were 15 years old. Number one, you don't even remember what you studied when you were 15, by the time you hit 20. Do I remember what I learned in madrasa? I don't. I've got to go back and read it. We don't remember what we ate for breakfast yesterday. Actually, we do remember, because yesterday we had a dawat. But that just goes to show, doesn't it? So look at how backwards we are with regards to our deen. This is the problem. We don't feel the sense of urgency or the importance that, no, I need to, as I age, my deen has to age with me. It's got to grow with me. As I grow, my deen has to grow with me. And that will be by acquiring knowledge. Now, how do we acquire knowledge? We acquire knowledge through the people of knowledge. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ is the command of Allah in the Quran, that ask the people of the Quran, ask the people of the ilm of the Quran, if ever you come across something that you do not know. It doesn't say, ask Google. It doesn't say, ask a search engine. I'm not against using the internet. Okay? But I am against this, that you use the internet and you make judgments for yourself based on what you research and you find on the internet with regards to your deen. Because we all know, and that's nothing, no one will disagree with me, that the internet has all sorts of things on it. So you can use the internet to research, but don't rely on that to take your deen. Inna hadha ad-deena ilmun. This deen is ilm. فَانْظُرُوا عَمَّنْ تَأْخُذُونَ دِينَكُمْ. So be careful and wary and look from who you are taking this deen from. Because ultimately, whatever knowledge you take and you acquire, that's going to become your deen. Okay? Now say you pick up some website, and on there you read something, and that is unauthentic. It does not conform to the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And you have no way of verifying that, and you read it, and you didn't ask anyone, and whatever you read, you began implementing, and you made that your deen. You're thinking to yourself, I am doing something deeni, something religious, something with regards to Islam. In the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to be questionable. That you took this to be deen? This was not deen. So we have to be very careful from where we acquire knowledge. Now on the internet, I ask you this one question, and I said this now just before, after the Taraweeh to the older generation. I said, we sit on the internet. We go on the internet, and then our intention is nice and clean and pure. I want to listen to the talk of this sheikh. I ask you this question, and you can all answer it yourselves. You don't need to tell me. But I know what the answer is. How many of us have sat on the internet, opened up YouTube, and searched for some sheikh that we like to listen to, and then clicked on his talk, and after clicking on his talk, the next time you click again on your mouse or on your keyboard is when the talk finishes, which is after an hour. No one does that. It's a bit here, 2 sentences here, then you click on the next video, you listen to that, and you get bored of it, the third one, and all the way we went on to this. And then at the bottom of the list is no longer a lecture, it's something else. And then you go on to that. And now it's not even religious. It's a trailer for Spider-Man 5. And then, next thing you know it, you're watching a movie. Am I not right? Or am I saying something which is mumbo jumbo? Makes no sense. Isn't that true? So how many of us have used the internet to inspire us religiously? No one has. We just fooling ourselves. Yes, internet can be used to advertise, to promote, to bring awareness of programs, of talks, because that's the way we catch the youth people, because that's the way the world works now. But don't tell me, and don't give me this rubbish, that I listen to talks and talks on the internet. No one does that. The best of speakers. There's a talk for 1 hour 45 minutes. Have you sat there and listened to that entire talk? We get WhatsApp messages with an audio link, and it's only 2 minutes long. You click on it and it starts, and then you think, hey, forget it. You stop it. You can't listen to something for 2 minutes. Never mind 1 hour 45 minutes. So don't use that to acquire your knowledge. Because why? Yes, there are talks of true scholars on the internet. Some of the most world-renowned and best scholars can be found on the YouTube. I don't need to take any names. People that regularly visit your masjid, your city, and mashallah, you benefit from them. But at the same time, there are loads of those people as well on the internet, and who we can become associated to through listening to their talks, who are unreliable and unauthentic. I'm not here to tell you who's right and who's wrong. Allah has given me aql, a brain, and He's given you a brain as well. You have to use it. Okay? Acquire knowledge from those people who you know that this person, whatever he will teach me or whatever I will ask him and the guidance that he will give me, it will be in line with the Quran and in line with the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He will never tell me something which is against the Quran and the Sunnah. And who's that? I mentioned this in one of the talks in the other masjid the other day, in Medina Masjid. Who's that? That same person who you went to when you were 15 years old. Your Mauli Sahib. Your Maulvi Sahib, who taught you, do you have any doubt in your mind even when you become 20 years old that this man was a liar? That he taught me something wrong, he taught me against the Quran, he taught me against the Sunnah? So why don't we go to them? Why don't you go to them? Just because he doesn't do a fancy speech? He doesn't do a nice lecture? Just because his English is not so good? What did he do when he was a young boy, when he was in India or in Pakistan? Was he just wasting his time in Darul Uloom for 8 years? Has he not studied Bukhari? Has he not studied the tafsir of the Quran? Why can't you go to him to acquire knowledge? He knows you as a child. He knows you as a child. He knows your temperament. He knows your nature. He knows your family. He knows where you live. He knows where you went to school. He knows the environment that you live in. Doesn't matter he's from India. You tell me, will he be able to better guide you, or some guy who lives millions or thousands of miles away somewhere else in some other country, whose culture is different, whose environment is different? I'm talking about your daily needs as you grow up as a young man in this environment. So the most best place to acquire knowledge is from those people whose background you are aware of. That person who you know, who comes to the masjid 5 times a day, who you've never seen go and eat haram, go and eat haram, drink haram, do something haram. That person whose life is in front of you, you see him from the age of 5, 6, that he frequents the masjid, he recites the Quran, he has got simplicity in his life, never seen him do anything wrong. Why don't you have trust in them? Acquiring knowledge from someone just because they sound nice, they look nice, that doesn't mean that they are authentic. Remember, authentic ilm is that when the person who is talking about the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has a chain that takes him back to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He has a teacher who taught him, and that teacher has his teacher, and that way they can reconnect themselves, going back in time all the way to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That is why ask the ulama and ask the students that when we study, we're not boasting, but when we study and when we finish our 6 years and 7 years, we can say that this hadith that I have heard from my ustad, I can go back all the way to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I heard this from my ustad, my ustad heard this hadith from his ustad, and all the way you can go back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is a chain, an unbreakable chain of authenticity of that knowledge. Guaranteed authentic knowledge. And we know that his ustad is this, we know him, many of us have seen them. Then we've heard about them, we've read about them, we know who they were. And on the other hand, we have people that we don't even know who they are. Where did they study? Who are their teachers? Who are the teacher of their teachers? What link does he have all the way back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam which authenticates their knowledge? Nothing there. Self-study. Reading books and became a scholar. Went to university, studied under a non-Muslim professor and had an MA or a PhD in Islamic studies, and now he's guiding the people. I'm not saying that they're wrong. Please don't judge me, I'm not judging anyone. What I'm saying is that use your mind and your understanding and your intellect, and you be the judge yourself. Who would you rather acquire knowledge from? I'm not saying don't take from them. What I'm saying is you have 2 options. Which one's the more cautious way? So, acquire knowledge, increase your knowledge. Read books that are authentic, and if you don't know, then if there's a book that interests you, then take that book, buy that book, ask your teacher, ask someone you trust, ask the Imam Sahib, ask your Maulana, ask your Maulvi Sahib, that this is a book that I found in the bookshop about Islam and I want to read it. Do you advise me to read it? Read it. Or you've bought a book and you want to read it, and in that book you come across something which puzzles you because you were brought up with something else, some different notion, and the book's telling you to do something different. Then don't take it for face value. Refer back to who you studied from and ask them that, Maulana, you taught us when we were young that you have to do this, and this kitab is saying this, I don't understand. Please advise me, please clarify this matter for me. Like I said yesterday, ask. Because asking is knowledge. So increase your knowledge by sitting in the company of the ulama, and ulama that you know, or you might not know them personally, but you see other ulama that when they come, they sit with them. So that also is an indication that this person is trustworthy, because if he wasn't, why would other ulama sit there then? If he was a wrong person, they wouldn't. Acquire knowledge from them. And one advice, choose for yourself one alim that you feel compatible with, that you feel comfortable with, that you can talk to him openly and freely, and he will be able to guide you, and you have admiration for him, you have trust in him. Choose that person and then hold fast to him and use him for your religious affairs. And at the same time, have respect for all the other ulama, and when you get a chance, sit in their company. But one is there special, who is your guide, just like how you have your father, who guides you through worldly difficulties. And number 2, acquire material which is authentic and read it. Read. The biggest complaint, not of Muslims, but of the non-Muslims, educational establishments, ministries of education in all the countries of the world is what? The literacy rate is dropping day by day. Children can't read. They can't read. They just can't read. So read. Read about Islam. Acquire knowledge. Read about what's happening in the world. Try and understand things. Put into context what you are going through. And you read the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I'm going to advise you on what to read. And I want you to find something by the end of Ramadan. Okay? One is, I want you to get a book on the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A book on the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is his seerah. So a book on seerah. Go to the bookshop, ask someone that I want to have a book on seerah. So, and then choose a book which is according to your age. Buy it, study it, read it, and then after that, not finished, then you go and find another book on seerah which is of a higher degree now. So which is now in more detail. So you continuously reading and you maturing yourself with the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you're 12, so buy a book on seerah which is for 12-year-olds. You're 18, buy a book on seerah which is for 18-year-olds, for adults. If you're 12 and you bought one and you read it over 2 years, 3 years, and you finished it when you were 15, now when you're 16, buy a seerah book which is a bit more higher and advanced in its content. Because that is the best guide for us. Yes? So a book on the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Will everyone do that? Inshallah. Okay. Yeah? So get a book on seerah and read it every day, once a day, once every 2 days, once a week, 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages, how much, whatever amount you feel comfortable with, and read it. And not like just read it. Read it, and then whatever you read, try and mirror that, reflect it on your own life. Try and see where you fit in to that part of the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how you can use it in your daily life as a guide. So if we do these 2 things, inshallah, as we get older, we'll become more mature in our thinking, in our understanding of our deen, and our deen will increase and expand. It will become more comprehensive. It will become more comprehensive. It will become more involved in our lives. It will dictate more of our lives. It will assist us with the challenges that we face as we get older in this environment. And at the same time, we will then be in a position to pass on that knowledge to the generation that is to come after us. Because why? Me and you are going to become fathers, parents tomorrow. Don't we want our children to be firm in their deen? If we as parents are not going to be future parents, if we're not strong in our deen, how are we going to pass on this deen to them? So the benefits are manifold, okay, multiple. So please acquire ilm, but acquire it from the correct sources. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the tawfiq to acquire the true and pure ilm of the Quran and of the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as how it has been explained to us by our pious elders. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallama ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Anybody have any questions? Ji. Ji. If you read the last word, then no, it won't be. Generally in the Quran, in the sajda ayah, the word which makes the sajda incumbent has a line drawn over it. Okay, on top, yeah. Gee, anybody else? Yes. The simple rule in this case is easy to understand. In English we say, hate the sin, but not the sinner. Hate the sin, but not the sinner. Remember, each human being has the ability to accept Iman. He is born with this fitrah, with this natural instinct and inclination towards the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why we cannot undermine any human being, regardless of who they are, even a non-Muslim. Because when the tables can turn, and the coin can flip, and the heart turns, only Allah knows. Allah can grant someone hidayah, and Allah can take away hidayah. It's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the person himself should not be hated. It is the sin that we should hate, that the person does. Dislike the sin, not the sinner. Okay? And the nafs itself, which you are saying, the third thing, the nafs. Nafs means your carnal desires, your base desires, your lowly self. That thing which makes you want to do things which bring enjoyment. Your nafs is not evil. Your nafs is not evil. Your desires are not evil. All they want is enjoyment. They just want to have enjoyment. It does not differentiate between haram and halal. If it gets enjoyment in haram, it will take you towards it. If it gets enjoyment by going to clubs, by having illicit relationships, by watching movies, then it will take you there. Because all it needs is enjoyment. That's its fuel. It craves for it. But if you can change its focus and it gets that same enjoyment in salat, it won't take you there then. It will take you to salat then. That is why Allama Busiri rahmatullahi alayhi, he has said that the nafs is like a weaning child. You know what's a weaning child? A child which is still on the milk of its mother. It's experience that if the mother continues to feed the child her milk 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, the child will never be able to eat food, because he doesn't know how to eat food. He'll never be able to eat food. If you give it some chapati, some bread, some rice, it won't know what to do with it in the mouth and spit it out, because it's only accustomed to having milk in its mouth. So you have to wean this child. You take them off slowly. You reduce the amount of times you give it a feed, and then you bring in solids. So you take rice and you mash it all up, and then you make it like milk, so the child gets a bit confused and he thinks maybe it's milk, so he eats it. Then you get vegetables, you mix them up, mash them up, and then you slowly reduce the intake of milk, and it goes on to solids. Now it's ready to eat. And after that, then you tell you to drink milk. You guys don't even like milk. Then you want milkshake. So the nafs is as well, if you just let it loose, then obviously there is shaitan who is working there. So shaitan is always going to whisper that enjoy yourself at the club, enjoy yourself over here, enjoy yourself in drugs, enjoy yourself in gambling, enjoy yourself on viewing pornography on the internet. And because the nafs longs for enjoyment, it'll go there. And the more it's given that, the more it becomes habituated to it. Now, after 2 years, 4 years of these bad habits, now you want to give it enjoyment in salat, it's not going to happen. It's going to be like that child. You kept on giving it milk, now you want to give it rice, and you want to give it biryani, and you want to give it halim, it's not going to take it now. So the nafs is not evil. It's we spoil the nafs. Okay? So we've got to work in trying to take out the nafs from this childish behavior of just looking for benefits here and there, and happiness here and enjoyment here and there, and give it the true the enjoyments that are in following the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then, just like how if somebody says to you that Friday night I'm going to watch the movie in the theaters, without even thinking you say, yes, I'm coming with you. In the same way, if you mold your nafs in doing good deeds and give it the enjoyment of good deeds, of being obedient to Allah, then when the time of salat comes, and you just have to say to yourself that namaz time now, I need to go to the masjid, your nafs won't even retaliate, it'll just take you there, because it's going to get enjoyment there. So we've got to work on our nafs, on our desires, and accommodate for them enjoyment, but in the legal form, in the good form, in the form of being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that doesn't mean as well, another point here, that doesn't mean as well that basically you just force upon your nafs salat, reciting the Quran. No. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the hadith, inna li nafsika alayka haqqun wa inna li jasadika alayka haqqun. Your nafs has a haqq upon you. Your body has a haqq upon you. It needs recreation. It needs to have some fun sometimes as well. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam didn't say you can't have fun. But it has to be within the boundaries of the Sharia. Anybody else? Ji. How can you create khushu and khudu in your salah? Very good question, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Successful are those believers who pray salat? No. Who pray salat with khushu. What's khushu? With humility. How would you bring humility into salah? Humility means that how that person who performs salat with concentration. And how do you create this concentration? Simple. Very easy. All you do is in salat, whatever posture you are in and whatever action you are involved in, concentrate on that action and that posture. So for example, you're going to ruku. So what is the khushu of ruku? The khushu of ruku is when you're going to ruku, the khushu of ruku is when you say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, you're concentrating on what you're saying. It's not parrot fashion. That will create khushu. You say Allahu Akbar and then you start reciting A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim. So it's not that it's A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim and mine's there in the final of the World Cup. It's you concentrating on the words Alhamdulillah. So you know I'm reciting Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Whether you know the meaning or not, you're concentrating on the words. So by the time you finish your qiyam, that entire qiyam will be with concentration, won't it? And that's called khushu. Okay? Khushu doesn't mean that for the entire duration of salat, you don't allow anything else to come into your mind. Because sometimes, naturally, your mind might wander off somewhere. That doesn't mean that it's against khushu. The level of salat, khushu that the Sahaba had, we'll never get that. And nor does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala demand that from us. Okay, that we're oblivious to everything else that's around us. You don't need to have that. Okay? The salat, khushu of salat is that intentionally we don't bring in the thought of something outside of salat. That's all. If something happens by itself, then, and you get carried away, as soon as you realize that, hey, hang on a minute, I'm praying salat and I'm thinking about that, stop, end of story. Brush it aside, continue with your salat. Okay, I'll explain that to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran two things, in two places. One is al-fasanatin and the other is khamsina al-fasana. There are two durations mentioned. One is 1,000 years, like you said, and in another verse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says 50,000 years. Okay, so now how can it be that one day is 1,000 years and 50,000 years? It doesn't make sense. Okay, the hereafter, the day over hereafter of the day of Qiyamah, in one place the Quran says it's going to be 1,000 years long, and in another place the Quran says 50,000 years long. Now that outwardly seems contradictory, but the Quran is never contradictory. Okay, that's one thing. Whether we understand it or not. But there is clarification there. It's easy. It's very easy to understand. Let me give you the example. At this moment in time, when does the night finish? On dawn, doesn't it? When we stop our suhoor and sehri. What time is that? 4 o'clock? 3:45. 3:45 basically means the end officially of the night and the beginning of day. Right? And when do we break our fast? At 9 o'clock in the evening, at night. Yes? So 9 o'clock is the officially announcement that the day has completed and the night has started. So that's how many hours? Nearly 17 hours? Yes? And the night is how many hours? Only 4 or 5 hours? So let's say for example's sake, the day is 15 hours, okay, and the remainder, come on, you guys should be good at maths. 9 hours is the night. So 15 hours is the day, 9 hours is the night. Now let's go fast forward to winter. Fast forward to winter now. So I don't know how about you guys, but there by us in England, we go to pray Fajr at 7:30 in the morning. So the dawn takes place around say 6 o'clock in the morning. And Isha, we go and pray at 10:30, quarter to 11 o'clock. No, sorry. We pray Isha at 6 o'clock in the evening, 6:30 in the evening. Rojo lagi gaya the. So now look. 7 o'clock we pray Fajr in the morning and 6 o'clock we pray Isha in the evening. How many hours is that? 11 hours. And the night starts at 6 o'clock and ends next morning at 6 o'clock. That's how many hours? 12, 13 hours. So look now, what's happened? Are we in a new world? We're still in Toronto. The days gone longer and the days gone shorter. In the hereafter, the same thing is going to happen. For some of us, it's going to be a winter's day. And for some of us, it's going to be a summer's day. How? Depending on our a'mal. If you are a good person, it's going to be a short day. Quick, easy, and job done. And next thing you know it, you'll be in Jannah. And if you're an evil person, a wretched person, it's going to just drag on. It's going to be like how you're waiting at the doctor's surgery. Your turn never comes. And it just drag on and be just long and long and long and long. ठीक है? Yeah? Okay. Anybody else? You still got a few minutes, mashallah. जी 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 इना तो मैंने 2 કલાક નો टाइम जो है a lot of people have asked me, I want you should talk on salat. Okay, but it's a very important topic. Okay, I'm not denying that, but it's not something that we can like have a bayan on. You understand what I'm trying to say? It's a practical thing. Okay, by me saying to you that look, when you start your salat, make sure your hands are like this. You listen to me and you go off home and you don't even remember. Yeah? Because the problem is, I'll identify the problem and answer the question of the brother there, of the uncle. The problem is that we've learned to pray salat in a specific manner from, again, what I said to you when we were in our talk. We were 14 years old. And we've never ever turned back and looked back at the salat that I've been praying all these years, is it actually in conformity with the sunnah or not? Now you've been praying this salat for 15 years. You start your namaz, you start like this. Your hands are like this. You start your salat. If I tell you now that that's wrong, you should start your salat by raising your hands up to your earlobes and your palms should be facing the qibla. I can guarantee you that when you come for Fajr namaz, you're still going to do this. Because why? Why is what I told you 2 hours ago going to make you change something which you've been doing for 15 years? Okay? Because to you, your salat is not wrong. So even if I have a workshop on salat tomorrow for the entire morning, it's not going to make any difference. You have to have it in yourself to ask someone that, look, I'm going to pray salat, look at me, and then note down for me where I'm going wrong, and then tell me what's right. That's how you'll change your salat. There's no point in me giving a lecture. But a lot of people have been asking me, Malana, why don't you talk on salat? Why don't you talk on salat? Why do you say, what is the masail of salat? Okay, but that's for each one of you to go and find out that yourself. Okay? And another way of learning how to pray salat, another one I'll tell you, easy way, is observe someone who you think that this guy prays salat according to sunnah. Observe the Imam Sahib. Observe him. After namaz finishes, when he steps back and starts praying his 2 rakat sunnah, 4 rakat sunnah, look at him. How does he do his takbir? How does he fold his arms? How does he go into ruku? Observe him. How does he do his sajda? And then copy him. That's a good way of rectifying your mistakes. Yeah? ठीक है? जी. Yeah. Okay, that is a very, very good question, mashallah. Okay? A lot of people become hafiz. A lot of students, mashallah, become hafiz. Now I want you to understand one thing. You know, back in the day, when somebody used to become a hafiz in India, in Pakistan or whatever, there was no difference between them in status with a person who was an alim. They both lived same types of lives. Hafiz Sahib, Mauli Sahib, same thing. Hafiz Sahib, Mauli Sahib, same thing. They both had similar types of life. They had a life which had a boundary. They never used to exceed that boundary. A Hafiz Sahib as well, you wouldn't see him wearing trousers and shirt. He'd be in his kafni and hijab, shalwar and kameez. You wouldn't see him walking around without a topi on. You wouldn't see him going to the movies. You wouldn't see him do those things which normally you don't expect an alim to do. Even a Hafiz Sahib would be that careful. And this day and age is that we become Hafiz, but we don't realize what ni'mah we've acquired and gained, and as a result of that, we just become this normal youth on the street. There has to be a difference between you as a Hafiz and that youth of the same age who is not a Hafiz. You've got to put down boundaries for yourself. You've got to put it down. You've got to tell yourself, I am a Hafiz of the Quran. So for me, this is a no-go area. The Quran in me means I can't do this. There's got to be a difference between you and a non-Hafiz. Because the Quran is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So today, I'm not saying that start going and acting like an alim. What I'm saying is that have some things which are no-go areas for you, even though they're not something which are impermissible. But just that because you're a Hafiz, think to yourself that, you know what, it's not nice for me to go there or do this. People will say that, Hafiz the nahu kare. Okay? So, everybody has certain protocols in their life. That for me, I don't like to do this. It's not talking about haram and halal. We're not talking about that. Sometimes just naturally you don't want to do it. Your friends, they like to go out and, for example, eat at a restaurant. But you just don't feel like eating anywhere. You like to eat at home. So, fair enough. Similarly, as a Hafiz, if you have to sacrifice certain enjoyments or certain things or certain activities, which because you feel that as a Hafiz, it's not right for me to do it, you don't need somebody to tell you that. You just decide for yourself. That is it appropriate for me to do this, to wear this and go outside? To be seen in this manner with a group of people? To be seen talking to a girl? So basically what we need to do in this day and age is that the Hafiz has kind of like become like an insignificant person. You know, if somebody becomes Hafiz, the Hafiz is Chennai. We as well, who are not Hafiz, if we have friends who are Hafiz, respect them. Show them respect. If we have a child in our home who's become a Hafiz, then deal with him as a Hafiz. Give him that extra importance, that he's got 3 siblings. And from your 4 children, one is a Hafiz and the other 3 are not. Even though he may not be the eldest child, but when you do something as a group, then the father should importance that no, he will eat the food first today because he's a Hafiz. You have to give them that importance. Some of our scholars, they say that when we were kids, our father used to call us Mauli Sahab, Maulana. We were 2 years old, 3 years old. Why? Because he's telling us that from now, be prepared to be called Maulana when you grow up. Okay, so we've got to set the standards ourselves, and we have to respect and show honor to the Hafiz as well. Whether he is a 12-year-old, whether he is a 15-year-old, whether he is a 25-year-old, whether he is an old chacha. Everyone has the same respect because they're Hafiz. Okay? Somebody who is not baligh is allowed to read Sunnah, meaning okay, so he's the Imam. Okay, so the imamat of a child which is not mature is not accepted, regardless of whatever salat it is. Okay? But if you guys want to just do practice imamat with your friends and you're all the same age, that's fine. But no one behind you should be who's mature. Okay? Shall we conclude? Okay. Do a quick dua. Sure. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions before we conclude? Jay. Okay. Some people nowadays do nikah in high school. Okay, this is something which was quite prevalent a few years ago in England as well. Some people were by way of fun conducting nikahs between boys and girls, okay, and kind of like imitating a marriage ceremony. So there are certain things in Deen that even if you do it out of fun, out of a joke, or without intention, but you just said it, then the consequences of that become established. You know, like for example, if there's a husband and wife, and the husband out of a joke says to the wife, I divorce you, he doesn't mean to divorce her, but he just says as a joke, divorce will take place. So similarly, marriage, if you say that, do you accept me as your husband, do you accept me as your wife, and you say yes, and there are witnesses in front of you, the nikah will take place. Okay, so I'm not going to answer the question because it's straightforward. We shouldn't be doing that. Okay, you shouldn't play with fire, otherwise you'll burn yourself. That's the answer. Okay, don't play or don't mess with the Sharia, otherwise you end up in big trouble. Okay, then you got to run to a mufti sahab, and then you got to get him involved, and then you got to get your parents involved. Then it gets all long then. Okay? Chalo. Let's make a quick dua inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى اللهم أصلح لنا شأننا كله ولا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين ولا تنزع منا صالح ما أعطيتنا وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت لنا اللهم أصلح لنا شأننا كله اللهم أصلح شبابنا اللهم أصلح أطفالنا اللهم أصلح نساءنا اللهم أصلح رجالنا اللهم أصلحنا يا رب العالمين اللهم لا تجعلنا شقيا ولا محروما اللهم ارحمنا اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا اللهم خير لنا واختر لنا وألهمنا مراشد أمورنا وأجرنا من خزي الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة اللهم احفظنا من بين أيدينا وعن أيماننا ومن شمائلنا ومن فوقنا ونعوذ بعظمتك أن نغتال من تحتنا اللهم احفظنا من كل بلاء الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من عذاب جهنم ومن عذاب القبر ومن فتنة المحيا والممات ومن شر فتنة المسيح الدجال اللهم تقبل منا وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين